What's up, everybody? I'm here with a what I watched in February. And I know this video doesn't make any sense because it's going to come out March 29th, but don't pay any attention to that. Also, don't pay any attention to this stupid ass haircut. Also, I realized I have a $900 camera that I should probably be using instead of this $10 Logitech webcam. So I'm going to be using that from now on. Anyway, last month I said I needed to watch 42 movies this month to keep up with my 500 movies a year pace. So this month I watched 31. Guys, maybe I'm not the man I thought I was. Maybe I'm not the autistic film snob that knows all about every movie. No, I am that autistic cinephile. Trust me, I did the math, and if I want to get back on track for the year, I need to watch 62 movies in March. Can I do it? That being said, what a terrible fucking month for movies this was. In the month of January, my average rating for movies was 2.5. This month, I averaged 2. And the perfect way to start off the month was with How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Maybe I didn't like this movie because I was putting myself in the shoes of Matthew McConaughey, and all the annoying shit Kate Hudson was doing to him made it feel like she was doing it to me. But to me, this was just such a headache-inducing movie. I could not stand it. If you're ever on a date with a girl, ask her 4 favorite movies, and if this is one of them, run. Then I decided to watch the predictable dumpster fire that was Argyle. I'm honestly pretty glad that this flopped and only got 90 million at the box office, because if a movie like this, where you can just throw $200 million at a bunch of A-list actors and throw some pretty colors on the screen with subpar CGI, then that is so uninspiring for low budget directors that could use $200 million budget in any better way. This movie had no reason to exist at all. It's also tiresome these days with Hollywood movies. I then watched You've Got Mail. I thought this movie was pretty cheesy, but still heartwarming. I think that's what most rom-coms are supposed to be like. It was pretty easy to empathize with the characters, even though the comedy parts of rom-coms are never fucking funny. As long as it weighs in on a more appealing romantic plot, then I think I'll enjoy the movie. Then I watched Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie. Technically, I don't even know if this movie's out yet. I watched this on the Caribbean, if you know what I mean. Yeah, this shit was just completely awful. Maybe I'm being cynical because I thought SpongeBob was annoying growing up, but man, this shit was downright irritating. I don't know why they keep messing with the animation format, because the original SpongeBob SquarePants movie was pretty good. It's the same animation when most TV shows make a movie and they just add shading, and there's really nothing wrong with that. Everything looks so ugly and disgusting. And to be honest, I don't know how SpongeBob the TV show and SpongeBob the movies are still coming out. I really thought they had a good ending after the first movie. And then I decided to watch The Curse. Now, I don't know how to describe the show, but as a really big Nathan Fielder fan, I thought the acting from everybody was top-notch. Emma Stone really sold being an annoying climate change extremist with a white savior complex. Nathan Fielder's comedy is just being the straight man the entire time, so seeing him in a more dramatic role was pretty shocking and honestly very impressive. Benny Safdie was great as well. The ending fell flat for me. It didn't really tie up the entire show, and I think they really just thought, what's the weirdest way we could end the show? And that's what they did. So really their last episode was the second to last episode, because their ending was just some weird ass fever dream. Then I watched every Nathan For You episode, but I couldn't log that on Letterboxd, so my next real movie was Burn After Reading, made by the Coen brothers, starring Brad Pitt with the worst possible haircut. I thought this was a nice, easy watch, but the story and conflict kind of got too out of control near the end, especially after Brad Pitt's character, you know. I then decided to watch Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and to be honest, the entire appeal of this movie was just how hot Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie are. But besides that, what we're left with is a half-decent movie that I think married couples can get behind. The type of couples that are secretly harboring a ton of hate for each other, those types of couples would love this movie. But yeah, the action was kind of boring because we all knew that they weren't ever going to really kill each other, and the conflict kind of confused me. Like when they showed them getting together at the beginning of the movie and they gave each other their names, I thought that they were under the understanding that they were both spies, but I guess not. And then how are you going to be married to someone for a decent amount of time and not know that they are a spy? And if you guys are, so what? Why can't you guys just go on doing what you're doing? I don't know. That kind of threw me for a loop, and I definitely looked way too deep into that, something that wasn't necessary. Also, I don't know if this is a weird take, but Angelina Jolie is kind of freaky looking. Not because she's ugly or anything ridiculous like that, but every time I look at her, I can't help but to see Jon Voight. I then watched Lisa Frankenstein, and I was really excited for this movie for a while now, but I don't know what the hell happened. I went into this thinking, man, we're getting a movie with the same kind of vibe as Ghostbusters or Beetlejuice, and maybe it's because times are changed, but this looked and felt like a $500,000 budget movie. Like, dude, this shit looked like a quirky student film. The editing was terrible. I mean, the pacing was just awful, and the transitions felt like a Star Wars film in a bad way. Cole Sprouse was incoherent and annoying, and I get it was supposed to be a dark comedy, but it was tough to get behind Lisa Frankenstein as a character when she had no redeeming qualities. I then watched Rush Hour. Maybe this is a classic in some people's eyes. I think it has some pretty good moments, but to me, it's just Die Hard with Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan, and their comedy works for some people, but it doesn't work for me. All I saw it as was just two people being an asshole to each other the entire time with the occasional shock comedy value.
What's up?
I then watched Zombieland Double Tap, and as a fan of the first one, I think this one did alright as a sequel. Every character is just annoying, and the conflicts were just random and unnecessary. Then I watched 50 First Dates, and dude, is anyone else pissed that this guy Adam Sandler just gets to go to Hawaii whenever he wants to film a stupid-ass movie with his friends, where his love interest is always some blonde bimbo? And every time these movies suck, every time. I don't know what people see in these fucking movies. Do people really find Adam Sandler's character's effort heroic and charming? This shit was ass. Fuck you, Adam Sandler. Fuck you, Drew Barrymore. Fuck you, Rob Schneider, for making millions of dollars by going to Hawaii and making some annoying chick flick. Fuck you. Jesus Christ. Sorry, I have to collect my composure after that. Then I decided to lose all my faith in movies by following 50 First Dates up with Movie 43. Guys, I implore you to watch this. Do you know that one South Park bit where a bunch of actors are shamed into promoting crypto scams so they got peed on or whatever? This is what that feels like happened to everyone in this movie. This is currently sitting at a trailblazing 1.5 average on Letterboxd, which stands at the 126th worst movie of all time. I don't know what the fuck is happening in the world for this movie to exist. Just for some insight on what this movie is about, it's about some teenagers trying to find a mysterious movie on the internet called Movie 43. And while they're looking for it, they find a bunch of other movies, and these movies are fucking terrible. If my grandma saw Movie 43, she would drop dead. For example, one of these movies is Hugh Jackman on a date with Kate Winslet, and the punchline, get this, is he has balls on his chin. Guys, I'm not fucking joking. The creators of this movie are literally me in 5th grade, trying to think of the most offensive shit possible. Guys, please watch this movie, just so you can go and appreciate other movies even more. I then watched the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, which were honestly pretty great. I don't know if I liked them more because of the movie run I just got out of, but these movies really helped me feel an innocent or childlike wonder again, with interesting adventures and fantasy. I think the first two were great, but the last two were not so great. And I think the main part of that is that, one, pirates get stale after a while, and two, the first two movies didn't really lean on Johnny Depp like the last two did. They really used Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom as main characters along with Johnny Depp. No one was really a sidekick in the first two, and I think that's what made it so great. But after a while, Johnny Depp really just seemed to become an annoying drunk rather than a whimsical, quippy pirate. I then watched The Taste of Things, which was IndieWire's second best movie of 2023, and to be honest, I can see why. This movie was pretty spectacular. Everything just felt so comfortable and perfect. Like the dishes being served, it was like a piece of art. And I'll go ahead and put my favorite shot in the movie right here. This movie really had a special place in my heart. Another thing I want to give props to is the child acting. When it comes to child acting, what matters isn't how loud and emotional a character can get. It's the subtlety in what they do. And with the French version of Anya Taylor-Joy, I thought she did a great job. Also, the romance in this movie felt real. When most movies try to make a romance feel real, they show annoying, heavily romanticized, over-exaggerated conflicts like in The Notebook, or make the relationships dull as fuck like in past lives. But here we see real conversations, and they show a real connection to each other and their craft. And that's something I can really respect about the writing. So after all that being said, I'm genuinely surprised that it didn't get nominated for the best international film at the Oscar. Then I watched Bob Marley One Love, and man, I feel like this disrespected Bob Marley's legacy. To start off, I think Kingsley Ben-Adir did a pretty good job. I really felt like this movie was just a different font of the last few years of biopics we've gone about artists. Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man, they just feel like the same movies as this, but this somehow falls a lot flatter and feels a lot less interesting. Also, I don't want to come off as offensive, but I literally could not understand 95% of the dialogue because of the Jamaican accents. And I watched this before it was streaming in the theaters, so I couldn't turn on like subtitles or anything. So I got a headache trying to decipher what they were trying to say in this movie. Also, it's interestingly ironic that they call this movie One Love when they literally showed him cheating on his wife. Then I had the special privilege to watch Madam Web, and honestly, I didn't hate it as much as everyone else seemed to. Don't get me wrong, this movie is fucking cancer, from terrible ad-libs, terrible acting, from literally everyone in the cast, and the entire second act was impossible to digest and impossible to not feel bored. But there were some good aspects, like when the credits rolled and the Cranberries started playing. This could have been a half-decent movie if they didn't try to be something that they weren't. Then I watched Good Burger 2. Guys, why do I keep doing this to myself? Why the fuck? Then I watched my 7th rom-com of this month with Friends with Benefit, which was honestly more charming than I expected it to be. Just two hot actors having hot sex. And then they started talking about Alzheimer's. Then I watched what was my 7th 2024 release with The Underdogs, which is about Snoop Dogg coaching football. There's really not much to say about this movie, don't watch it. The whole comedy aspect of this movie is just kids saying curse words and outlandish things in hopes for shock humor, which can land with some people, but it just falls flat for me. Snoop Dogg ruins every song he touches, and this movie is no exception to that rule. Then I watched Upgraded with that one Riverdale actress, and yeah, I don't know. It was just another rom-com where the female protagonist is just a girl bossing and lying on the way to the top, and then she eventually gets caught in her lies, and then somehow she manages to girl boss her way out of that, and everything is fine in the end. I don't know if you're keeping track on my opinions of 2024 releases so far, but this is what it looks like. Hey, Letterboxd, please stop putting these movies in your fucking trending page, because I will end up watching them. Then I watched my second Yorgos Lanthimos film with The Lobster. It feels like I'm missing something when it comes to these movies. I mean, if you describe the premise of this movie in 1 or 2 sentences, they would come off as interesting and they would seem interesting, but they just don't make any fucking sense. I felt the same way I felt when I watched Poor Things. Every time the theater laughed, I just looked around like, wait, did something funny just happen? I mean, what's the point of making a drama when every other line has a joke embedded into it? I did think at times the romance was pretty strong. The ending was kind of cool, but I thought they should have expanded on that deeper. I do have a story about this movie-going experience. I show up 2 minutes late to a completely packed theater. I sit down, and then 5 minutes later, this old lady comes and sits down right next to me. 5 minutes after that, she takes off her shoes and socks and starts massaging her feet. I just sit there like this. Then 30 minutes pass, and I'm breathing through my mouth at this point because I can smell that old hag's feet. She then leans on my shoulder, and I immediately stand up, walk to the middle of the theater, and then watch the rest of the movie standing up. These are the types of people that enjoy Yorgos Lanthimos films. Let that be a lesson to you all. I then watched all of the Oscar-nominated shorts at AMC theaters. Most of them were a laugh riot. After that, I went to go see Drive Away Dolls. This movie is just a lesbian crime rom-com, and that's not really my type of movie, but I thought this movie would be a lot better received. Right now, it's sitting at a 2.9 average on Letterboxd, and I think it deserves better than that. This movie is kind of just a parody of Pulp Fiction if it was made by a raging lesbian, Ethan Coen. Then I got done watching Dune on the car ride to the screening for part 2, and I lost all excitement for part 2 after that first one. It was just way too slow and uninteresting. But then I watched Dune part 2, and man, what a night and day difference. I made an entire review. I'll link it in the description, and I'll put a card somewhere up here. But the gist of it is, if you didn't like part 1, you're going to be shocked by part 2. And please, for the love of God, watch this in a Dolby or IMAX theater. Do not skimp out on the theater choice. Denis Villeneuve's vision needs to be seen on the brightest screen possible with a full color range. The last movie I saw was Nyad. I remember hearing about this news story in 2nd grade, and even though it's inspirational, I think the story would have been better off as an article or a 5-minute Inside Edition YouTube video rather than a whole 2-hour length film. So that's what I watched in February, and because I made this video so late, my what I watched in March video should be out in less than a week if everything goes to plan, and I'll see y'all later.